Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Six Rings Kane Show. As always, joined live by my buddies Vish, Danny Gillette, and of course, Mr. Larry Bluestein. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing all right, can't complain.
Yeah, not too
Yeah,
bad, right?
not
Not
too
too bad.
bad, all things considered.
All things considered, absolutely not too bad. We've got an absolutely kick-ass show for you guys tonight. As I mentioned earlier on social media, we've got a very special guest coming on the show, which myself and Vish spoke to earlier today. Eric Mac Lain. By the way, you got to say it the right way because it's not Eric McLean; it's Eric Mac Lain.
Yeah, it's two. It's
It's
three
two.
words.
It's three
Eric
words.
Mac Lain.
Eric Mac Lain, college football analyst for ESPN for the ACC Network, and also co-host on the Huddle with our very dear comrade, Mr. Coach Mark Richt, and EJ Manuel, and the rest of the crew over there. So we've got a really special interview segment with him coming up in just a moment. However, listen, we've got a lot. By the way, we got a lot of breaking news as well for the roster. There's been some interesting developments recently coming up, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Texas A&M, fellas. Me and Blue, it's so funny though, Blue, because a lot of the stuff that we spoke about on that pregame show, keys to the game, and what Miami needed to do to win. They got two out of the three, more or less. They hit on like 75 to 80% of the keys that they needed to kind of produce to win that football game. Obviously, we all know they came up short 17-9 against Texas A&M, but this is interesting. This is I came out of that game feeling some type of way, right? Feeling a little different than I thought maybe I would. And that's in a good way, in a positive way, because I think that there's a lot to build off of that win. It looks like we can battle with the big boys now. And when I mean the big boys, I mean the SEC, the big bad SEC. Looks like Miami has been able to kind of right that a little bit. And to be honest with you, Blue, and I'm going to go to you first. This is a lot of the same rosters last year, right? A little bit of a turnover, some transfer portal guys that have made a difference. You can see that. And we'll get into some of the players that surprised us or that continue to surprise us or are playing really, really good football. But first, I kind of want to get an overall perspective, what you thought about the game in general, from start to finish, atmosphere, play, coaching, all of it. Blue, give me your thoughts. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I thought, Miami came in and I'm sure, you have a Mario Cristobal as a head coach, and he's not going to let all the environment get into you. And it's easy to say that you won't, but I just always thought Miami had a chance. There's a lot of games that you see, and even though they ended up 17-9, you say Miami never really had a chance in the game, but that's not true. They held the ball for, how much more minutes? I was looking at it.
It was 39 minutes, right?
No, well, they had, yeah. I mean, they had 34 minutes at 25. And the other thing that's staggering, for the first time since 2000, a team had 27 first downs and didn't score a touchdown. So
that's a pretty unbelievable stat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And Miami outgained them, nearly 400 yards to 264, and on and on and on. But at the end of the day, nobody made a big play. And obviously, guys, we've been screaming for that playmaker for the longest time. And nobody really came. There's, you could blame Tyler Van Dyke all you want, but he had eight balls that I counted drop. 8 balls that were catchable. Obviously, there was one that may have been behind Redding, but he still could have had it. That's the thing that's really makes you optimistic and disheartened at the same time, because what do you see coming out of this game that's going to change in ACC play? Forget about Middle Tennessee State, but what's going to make it change against North Carolina and Virginia Tech? To be honest with you, Texas A&M is okay. Georgia would beat them by 5 touchdowns. Alabama's going to beat them by 5 touchdowns. It'll be 52-7. Alabama's just, because they're big up front and they make plays. They have playmakers. If Miami would have struck with 2 or 3 plays downfield where the receiver got open and went the distance, that wouldn't even been a game. It really wouldn't have been.
Yeah, game would have been over real quick.
Yeah,
You're right.
so that's what I'm saying. Miami has right now doesn't have playmakers, and that's what differentiates them on offense with some of the heavyweights in the country, the Ohio States, the Oklahomas, because they have playmakers. Miami doesn't have any. They have a great running game. I mean, I wouldn't trade Miami's 2 running backs for basically anybody. They're both really good. They both have shown that they can run the ball. But from a passing standpoint, we don't have a guy that could come into that huddle and say, hey, I could blow this guy away. You know, like KT Osborne did, like Rambo did last year, like, you know, with his 14 catches and his 12 catches a game for like 150 and getting into the end zone. Right now, Miami doesn't have that dude. And will they get it this year? I don't even know. I mean, I couldn't say who it's going to be. I mean, and you know what? For all the naysayers that have been talking about Restrepo since they signed him, oh, he's a 1AA kid and he's this or that. They hurt without him. Brashard did nothing. And that's what I'm saying. When you put in the reality, Miami lacks the playmakers. You know what I'm saying, DJ? They lack the big guy. They lack that the guy to go downfield that can, you know, that could beat everybody. And it showed that they had enough offense to move the ball, but they didn't have that last, hey, I could beat that guy. You know, and you got to give Mallory credit. Caught 6 balls. I mean, albeit, you know, they were okay. I think Arroyo made that really nice play, I think, for 35 yards or so, how many it was. But when it comes down to it, guys, on offense right now, Miami's just an average team, maybe not even an average team, because if you don't have, you could get 400 yards all you want, but if you're not putting it in the end zone, you might as well have 110 yards, because that's what happened. And you missed 2 field goals. Obviously, that kind of hurt a little bit, but from the defensive standpoint, I've got no complaints. I really don't. They were out there, you know, I mean, and making plays, whether it be Williams or my old buddy, the linebacker that no one likes, but they were all making plays. I think that they did extremely well in coverage. They got good pass rush when they needed to. But that's my assessment. Miami, the only thing that's holding them back from getting to that level is getting some offensive playmakers.
Yeah, I would even go as far as saying that we haven't really had that playmaker. You know, because Rambo was great last year. Obviously, you know, Mike Harley was kind of like the security blanket last year as well. He played well, and he played well the last 2 seasons. And then the year before that, you had KJ Osborne, like you mentioned, Blue. But I'll be honest with you, like, when I think of a playmaker, a guy that's just going to completely just take over a game, the last guy I think about is Amon Richards. That's the last guy I really think about that could do that, right?
Yeah.
So we haven't had that guy in a little bit, right? We've had good plays here and there. We've had guys that have made some plays. Like, that's the first guy that kind of comes to my mind.
So the thing is, so I agree with Blue that, like, that's the next level. If you want to get to that top 5 level, right, you've got to have those playmakers. Here, we just need to make the plays that were there, like catch the ball. Like, that doesn't, like, this game was, like Blue said, we dominated this game so thoroughly that making the easy plays would have been enough here. But you could also see the gulf and, like, how, to Blue's point, that talent gap of to get where we need to go. The gap was obvious because they were not getting the separation that you would see, like, Alabama's receivers get or Georgia's receivers get. You know, even these schools were like, oh, they're looking for their playmaker. They still have 4 or 5 guys that would walk in and start for us. And so I think, you know, there's a clear gap there. But in this game, I mean, catch the ball. Like, just, I mean, the game ended exactly how it fitting. It was like poetic, just, you know, ball going off the receiver, right? And I mean, and I think, you know, if you string a few of those together, it relaxes the whole team. They settle in a little bit more. The longer that went on, where in their heads they know they're dominating this opponent and they're losing, it just gets to you. Just amps the pressure up on all the receivers now. And then they're thinking about it. They're thinking about Van Dyke started thinking. I could see him kind of double clutching some of his throws. Got into all their heads that they should be up, and they're not. And once the longer that game went on, it's almost like the pressure just kept getting more and more, and they started making more and more of those, you know, those simple mistakes, which, you know, it's just basic execution stuff. which would have been good enough to win this game. Now, if you're playing better teams than this, no. Now, because they made all those mistakes, they lost. But the defense was outstanding. Really, both of their drives were the first drive of the first half, first drive of the second half. Jimbo came out with a good script to start both halves, and that was pretty much it because the other touchdown was off the muff punt. So, I mean, the defense really did everything you could ask of them. So that was great. And really, the offense, the plays were on the field, despite the talent drain, which is definitely there. Because if we had more playmakers, we would have hit them over the top because we would have had plays where the guy's 5 yards behind the defense. And then, you're not going to miss those. Instead, we had like 1 yard of space, 2 yards of space. You still expect them to make the catch, but it's more difficult. So, if we had better playmakers like Blue, we would have blown them out in the first half. The game would have been over. But, just the plays that were there. Just inopportune drops at the wrong time, missed the block at the wrong time. The first half when we missed that long field goal, there were 2 plays that were, we can talk about some of Gass's play calling, but there were 2 plays that were perfect for those opportunities. One was the bubble screen where the slot receiver missed his block. I think it was Brinson, but I'm not sure. But missed his block, and then there was no one behind him. If he just holds that block, it's a touchdown. And then the same sequence of plays is the one where Parrish dropped it when had the whole side of the field open. Just you got to make those plays, and he didn't. But the reason that we actually talked about this a little bit against Southern Miss. As much as effective as this running game is, and the running game is awesome, if you're going to grind out first downs, you're reducing your margin of error because you're shortening the game. You're not going to get the ball as much. And, if you're constantly in 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, you have to execute every play well. Because if you're picking up 9, 10 yards of play, 11 yards of play, 1 drop pass, all right, we'll get it on the next play. But if you're doing it 4 or 5 yards, you can't have that lapse. And those drops just kill drives. Miss blocks kill drives. There's a little bit. Actually, I tweeted this. It was almost verbatim what Blue said earlier. I was encouraged and embarrassed at the same time. Like, how can we not catch the ball? On the other hand, when's the last time we went on the road against a good team and pushed them around like this? It's such an awkward feeling. It's kind of like we might actually be really good and just happen to not rise to this occasion here.
Right.
We're obviously going to get a shot later in the year at Clemson, which is another big time road test. Maybe we'll fare better there with this under our belt. But it really felt like the game was there for the taking, not because Texas A&M gave it to us, because we basically dominated it and then made so many mistakes they won anyway. I will say, I feel better, in terms of program trajectory, thinking long term, 1, 2, 3 years from now, losing this way than if we'd won the way A&M did, with their quarterback going 10 of 20 for 100-something yards, and then the other team just completely shooting itself in the foot repeatedly. And you know why? You know how you know that? Because how many games the last few years did we win and we were like, I still think we're terrible. Whew, we won, thank God. But oh God, I do not think this team is very good. We've won games the way A&M won that game last week. So I feel pretty good about the program.
I just want to I just want to respond to what you said, Jazz, and what Vish said. And Vish says that, catch the ball once in a while. Those are playmakers. See, then if they caught the ball, Vish, then they'd be playmakers. And that's the point. We don't have it. To your point, Jazz, if we had Rambo and Harley, Miami would have blown them away, because those are two, whether, and I don't, you go all the way back to Amon Richards. No, you had Rambo who could catch anything. So if he would stretch the defense like he did, and then Harley had that slot position, Miami would have killed them. They wouldn't have been able to cover those, especially as Vish said, if you're completing passes and moving the ball upfield. That was it. So that's what was lacking. Obviously, we could dwell on that for a million years, but until it changes, every big game, we're going to be saying, you know what, if he could have caught that, or he couldn't catch that. And to me, reliable running backs, they could run the ball. I think we just need Rooster to filter out of the backfield a little bit more and get paired with a linebacker. And I was thinking that during the game, get his ass upfield. Let's see. I don't think a safety is going to be able to stick with him. And at least he has some hands. So to me, I think Parrish froze at 2 times that he shouldn't have. The one drop there that hurt. And then there was one run where he had a chance off right tackle to take it a little bit towards the guard, and he would have been gone because there was nobody on that side. See, so to me, a few plays like this, but I kept thinking, there's no way that this team would ever even stay on the field with Georgia. No way. Georgia, Georgia's tight end is going to be the number one player in the country. I mean, they're not going to stop him. And I'm thinking, you know what? And I said what Vish said, and I agree. Miami is a few players or a few plays away from being that team. They really are. Where Texas A&M looks like they regressed. I'll bet you they don't win 9 games. And they're supposed to win 11 and 12 and all that. They're not going to win. There's no way they're going to touch Alabama. There's just no way. I mean, unless Alabama's bus fails to get there, they just don't. They cannot match up with them.
And Blue, you mentioned those 2 years of, like you said, they're 2 years ahead of us in recruiting. Yeah, depth-wise, from a recruiting perspective, right? They're a couple of years ahead of us. You can see it really didn't show that on the field per se, right? But I think the biggest difference, would you agree, was maybe the coaching at that point?
Well,
because
the play calling,
so much.
The offensive play calling was suspect sometimes. It really was. I mean, sure. And like, we were all over.
In the red zone, it was not great.
Right. And we were all over Lashley last year. Oh, what is he doing? Why? You know what? That's, at the end of the day, and like Vish pointed out, if you don't have the play, we could call plays if people hold on the balls. So obviously, oh, wow, he should have what? He should have held on to the ball. I mean, he should have done this. He should. No, if Redding makes a circus catch or somebody makes a big play, which is a playmaker, takes it to the house, it's over. This, that crowd would have been out of it. And Vish, you were there. The crowd got into it at the beginning, and then they seemed to say, wow, this is boring football.
Yeah, so just on the crowd, I do think so. My God, they have so many organized cheers. It is beyond annoying. It's just like it's just like, okay.
Sit down already.
Well, it's the yell leader, which is the dude in the white, has a signal, and they all do the same cheer. Nothing to do with what's going on in the game. So, in my opinion, it actually makes it less intimidating. I talked about this before the game because I'd been to multiple games there. I think everyone knows I was born there at this point. But and instead of like I said, there. Some stadiums I've been to, like Blacksburg, I've been to these like places where the people are nuts, and you're always kind of on edge. Like, are they going to like go full psycho on us? Like that air of unpredictability actually amps up the intimidation factor. There's none of that here. They're doing what it doesn't matter if they were down 20 or up 20. It's the same cheers. It's the same chance. And after a while, it kind of just becomes back. It's like white noise. So I don't really think it affected us. Everyone's like, wow, there's a lot of people there. It was. Yeah, I've been in much louder. I've been in much louder stadiums, because they're busy doing, like, it's almost like the cheering is a sport there, like, and instead of actually like reacting to the game. And to me, it's much more intimidating. Like, you've been in the Orange Bowl in one time in Hard Rock against Notre Dame, where people are just losing their minds, going crazy. That level of noise, you're never going to reach it when everyone's looking at the yell leader for the signal to what chant they're going to do.
That's LSU. That's Florida Field. Those they actually, like you said, those people at A&M were just making noise. Yeah. These people will try to intimidate you, and that's why it's a tough place to play at LSU or in Gainesville, because they try to intimidate you, not with like slogans and not with like sing-alongs. I mean, but really, like, start belting out the 4-letter words and the personal stuff, and that gets you. And that's what intimidation is.
Yeah, then you start thinking, I wonder if any of these people are armed, and it all starts going through your head. It's just like, you weren't really worried about that here. They were way too friendly too, which is just uncomfortable.
Yeah. But like the Orange Bowl, if you remember the end zone crew, if you hated to be a Notre Dame going into that end zone or coming out of that end zone, because they would harass you to death. And to me, that's the home field advantage. You've been to Gainesville, and a lot of those little redneck guys, they'll get on you quick. I mean, they'll start reciting things that you've never heard before. And see, that to me is unbelievable. And even Michigan. Michigan, they kind of bring it too. But that A&M, you could have 135,000 people. I don't care. But if they're not going to be intimidating and all they're going to do is, sing kumbayas and all that stuff, there's nothing going to be intimidating. It's just going to be loud and, like he said, white noise. And
So
but
the dumbest thing they cheer is, and I don't even understand this. Maybe someone from, I guess I know several people from there, so I should have asked. One of their chants is "Farmers Fight," and they keep saying "Farmers Fight" over and over again. I'm just very
well, it's
confused as to the
because
whole.
it was an
Yeah,
agricultural.
that's what the A&M is, agricultural and mechanical. I get
Yeah.
that, but
That's weird.
But
it's
they don't
just a
say it at
weird thing to
Florida
be
A&M,
yelling
I
at a
don't
football.
think.
It's a weird thing to be yelling at a football game. So I was like, really? That's what we're going with?
That's very weird. That's very
weird.
weird.
Hey DJ, I was going to ask you. I mean,
Mm.
because you watch these games and you analyze these games. What you heard from all of us, don't you agree that Miami just didn't make plays on offense? I mean, they may have had people open, but if you drop the ball, and I heard the one thing in the post game that Mario said. He goes, "You guys want to all blame it on Tyler. If we caught a ball, then you wouldn't have blamed it on him." And I agree.
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely agree too. I thought the receivers were just a little bit off this game, and and you guys kind of mentioned it. Restrepo was definitely missed. Having a guy like Restrepo, having that security blanket allows you to first and long into second and manageable, second and 5, and you don't necessarily have to look for that big play wide receiver. You can just dump it to the slot receiver, continue your drive, and get into a rhythm. And I just thought that I thought the defense played great, but I just thought there was something missing offensively. Um, I'm not going to go into the play calling. I too thought it was questionable, but I think the problem that Miami is going to have is that we have such a good run game that we could get 5 yards a carry, but depending on who your opponent is, that could work right into their hands as you tick away the clock. And that's a balance that we're going to have to find. I thought Jalen Knighton played extremely well. We were kind of wondering, how many carries he would get heading into this game. And I think he got 16, if I'm not mistaken. So I thought he played pretty well. And right now, I'd say that running back is definitely the strongest unit. And without Restrepo in the picture for at least a couple of weeks, Miami is desperately going to have to find a playmaker at wide receiver, because what we saw on Saturday was that if you take away Restrepo, then the wide receivers struggle.
All right. Real quick, by the way, Blue, I wanted to kind of answer you about the wide receivers. Yeah, look, I didn't mean to say that the guys like Rambo and Harley couldn't have won this game. I think we definitely would have kicked their behinds with Rambo and Harley there. I see it as Ahmad Richards just being that. Like, I was so confident in Ahmad Richards. The minute you got the ball to him, he was going to make a play. He was going to make someone a miss and score a touchdown. Rambo did a lot of that. But for me, I mean, that's all I was trying to say is we haven't had that type of playmaker per se, that guy that just kind of outshines everybody. Rambo was a great fit for us. They did some great things, and KJ Osborne and Mike Harley and all those guys. And I think any of those guys, if we had any of those guys in this team, we would have scored at least 2 or 3 touchdowns with them there. But at the end of the day, look, it's a combination of everything. Yes, it was poor play calling per se inside the red zone. Josh Gaddis did mention that it's hard to call passing plays in the red zone when you are facing 8 in coverage. And I get that, and I understand that. But at the same time, you probably have to be a little more creative down there in order for you guys to score. And to kind of just touch on the whole thing of the receivers not getting any separation. You're right. They didn't get much separation. There were times that they were open and maybe TVD missed them or didn't see them. Or maybe at that point, listen, you've got a couple of drops already. You want to make sure that you get the ball to the right guy that's going to catch the ball, and maybe he lost a little confidence at that point. That happens. I know that happens. In hearing some of the former guys that have played the quarterback position, some of those drops I can tell you right off the bat, or some of those misfires that TVD had were definitely not his fault per se. There was some routes that were run incorrectly. That are timing routes, and you saw them on one of the out routes that I can't remember who it was that ran. It was supposed to be an 8 yards and out, and before he turned, TVD had made that throw. Right, it's kind of like a timing route. Well, if you look at the play, and I kind of went back and looked at it, as opposed to going eight yards, the receiver went 9 yards and then turned out. So that throws the timing off right there. So if you're trying to run timing routes, that kind of stuff can kind of throw it off and make it look like the quarterback's making a bad throw. Same thing that with one of the Michael Redding passes where it looked like he was absolutely wide open and TVD completely missed him. Apparently, that route is supposed to be run sharper on that in route, whereas Michael Redding, I believe it was, kind of circled that route off, and so that kind of threw off the angle of the throw as well. So maybe listen, I'm not trying to put any blame on one side or the other, but I think that the fans and the people out there that are blaming this on TVD, saying that he had a terrible game, that it's just not accurate. And so that's what I'm trying to say by that. I think that these wide receivers definitely need to do a better job of catching the football, making some plays. And look, we'll talk about this after the Eric Mac Lain interview, but we've got another issue, right? Now we've got to tighten up again and the next man up again, because we, just found out breaking news on Jacoby George. So that gives another opportunity for some of these guys to start stepping it up. And look, I don't want to say we don't care about it, but Middle Tennessee State is not the barometer, right? It's not the measuring stick. However, you're going to have guys come out and play hard and play well in this game for them to have any confidence going into 2 weeks from now when they go play in the ACC, right? So I think that that's going to be interesting to see what they do. Isaiah Horton is another guy. I don't want to get into it. I'm jumping into it. However, I really want everybody to kind of check this out. We had a great interview and a great segment with Eric Mac Lain coming up now for you. We want to show that to you because he had a couple of things to say on the Texas A&M game, where Miami kind of goes after, how they move forward after this game, and he gives us a little insight as to how his power rankings in the ACC are also measured as well. So make sure you guys take a look at this. Check it out. Welcome, everybody, here to the Six Rings Cane show, and we are joined. We're really excited, actually, to have Eric Mac Lain on the show here, college football analyst, co-host of The Huddle on the ACC Network with our good friend, Mr. Coach Mark Richt and EJ and the rest of the crew there. What's going on, Eric? Glad to have you on, man.
Happy to be here with you guys. I'm actually surprised you brought up EJ. I didn't know if that was like against the rules or if you just want to shout out Coach Rick, but I dig it, man. I dig it.
Yeah, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
We don't mind. It's kind of a weird thing with Miami. Like Florida State and us play each other, so there's kind of a we all make fun of Florida type of thing.
I'm all in with that.
If there was a Gator on there, I don't know that we would have, but we're okay with EJ. He's tolerable.
Yeah, strong positive. Plus, my good friend is actually really good friends with him. He played at FSU with EJ back in the day. So, hey, again, really excited to have you on. I kind of wanted to start off. We saw you do the piece with Kelsey Riggs, Packer on the Miami Hurricanes about a month or two back when you guys were down here in Miami. What are your thoughts on this program as a whole now with Mario Cristobal at the helm coaching the Miami Hurricanes, coming back to Miami and doing his thing here?
Yeah, man, I was so jacked up, the day that it was announced, and there have been so many whispers. It was so, weird the way that it was all handled and went down with, the fact that they were going after him while they still had a head coach. But once it was official, man, I was jacked up and thought that it would be something that, is going to, progress Miami into the future very nicely with, having a guy like that home. He is obsessive about football. He is obsessive about Miami. And I think that is something that this program, dearly needs, is a guy with a vision like that, with a passion like his, that, man, it's everything. With some coaches say, yeah, well, it means this to me to be here. It's so exciting, this and that. It is the mountaintop for Coach Cristobal. That this is home. This is it. Everything he's grown up for, everything he's ever done. And I'm jacked up for it, man. His vision is so clear with how he presents it, the things that he wants from this football team, the expectation that he has. And, we spoke with Tyler Van Dyke, last week leading into the Texas A&M game and just kind of, asked him about the culture and about the things. And he said, man, the level that they expect from us is at a level I've never had in my entire life. And that's what you need. That's what it takes to be great. That's what it takes to get a 7th ring, as the comment or as the title of the show here today. And so, when I look at all those things, man, I'm excited. I think, as all things do, it just takes a little bit of time. And, once he gets his guys, once he gets everything rolling in the direction that he thinks is the level that he expects, look out, man. Miami's going to be in a really fun spot.
By the way, we're definitely get into some of the play on different positions, but I had to mention this, and I told Vish earlier. I said we got to talk about this, right? You played the offensive line position for Clemson from 2012 to 2015. Played with some great players over there, but I got to ask you this, right? And I got to throw this out there: number 59 player in the country, number 6 tight end in the country.
Come on.
What are you doing going to Clemson? Why aren't you at Miami? You know we put tight ends in the league, man. What's going on
there? Opportunity, man.
That's true, man. That's what a miss that was by me. Man, I got to tell you, it was something where I just got to Clemson and it felt home. It felt unbelievable. And I don't think, man, I'm from small towns. I'm from the country. I don't know if Miami would have even been the spot. I don't know what I would have been able to do there. I would have lost my mind, but it's beautiful. Now that I've been there, I've been to Coral Gables and seen the campus and Hard Rock. Man, that's why we're seeing recruiting go so well right now for those guys. I don't see how you couldn't want to go there. But it's an incredible place. But yeah, at the time, it wouldn't have met up with my thing at all.
So that's actually so that actually triggered a thought in my head. So now that you've kind of visited the program, you've seen the stadium, you see the campus, how different is, because obviously we're from Miami, we love the place, but how different is the reality from the perception of they don't have a campus stadium? That place is like not a serious football. If you want proper facilities, you got to go somewhere else. Like, how different is the reality to kind of the perception you see nationally?
Yeah, I think that it's so, different than most places because of the location. Like Miami's one of the most popular places in the world, right? Not a town, not a small city. I mean, this is a booming metropolis, right? And so to do the things necessary, it's not like Clemson. Clemson can build whatever they want, wherever they want, whenever they want. There's land for days, and it's very relatively cheap compared to Miami. And so with those factors in mind, I think that you look at Hard Rock, that's one of the best stadiums in the country, man. And I get that it's, a ways away, but, it's just different there. It's a pro town. And when the Canes are rolling, guess what? That thing's packed out. Doesn't matter where it is. That community around that area and that city there, they pack it out. Okay. And so with that and seeing what Miami is doing and talking with Dan Radakovich and the home, that he's building for Miami football right across the street there, it's going to be fantastic. And so throw all those narratives out the window. I don't need an on-campus stadium for a school that is very small, very private, and all of that. It's not the same as a Texas A&M that has a student body of, 30,000, whatever that is, that go to games and things of that nature. So for me, man, I think Miami has more than committed the financials necessary. It did take some time. It did take some criticism, but we're here now, and the future is extremely bright.
All right, Emac. You mentioned the name. You mentioned the team, Texas A&M. That's obviously what we wanted to talk about. Let's do this first, right? I want to black out. Let's say Team A and Team B. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna black out.
I already know where you're going, brother.
Okay, and we're gonna talk to Team A had a total of 393 total yards, right? As opposed to Team B, 264. First downs, 27 to 16. Rushing yards, 176 to 125. Passing yards, 217 to 139. Time of possession was something like 39 minutes of time of possession for Team A. Right. You look at those numbers and you say Team A dominated this football game, and they put a shellacking on Team B, right? So just to kind of say that, what would you say to that?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. It's one of those games where if you just print out the box score and you didn't watch any of it, you think Miami won. You think Miami won comfortably. And, it's crazy to see the little things that went wrong and the things that are very controllable, which is a good thing. I know it's a silver lining, and we hate those things at times. But when I see that game and I see that it was just right there, it was so close. You're on the road. You're in a crazy environment. You're going against a top 25 team in the entire country who just got embarrassed at home, that wants to prove that they belong, man. And little things that stack up quickly. I love the quote that, Coach Cristobal said there. It's not enough to just compete. We've got to execute. We have to play at a high level, do what we do best. And I think when I see that and I see those numbers, the one that jumps out the screen to me the most that you didn't even mention there, 5 trips to the red zone, 0 touchdowns. That is something where I'm just like, man, it's coaching, it's executing as a player, it's doing the things necessary. Because if we go through those and looked at each and every drive, there's a different thing that happened. A guy misses a block that would have been a walk-in touchdown. A guy drops a ball that would have been a walk-in touchdown. We miss a throw. We get a field goal block. All these different things that it was everybody. It wasn't just one, which it's good because you can correct and get those things going. The biggest thing for me in this game, guys, is what is the response? What does the team look after? How does it galvanize this team to another level that we look up at the end of the season and Miami's potentially 11-1 and rolling? And you look at that as that was the springboard that really got us going. You always want that to happen in a win. It happened in a loss. Let's see what they can do with it.
Yeah, so I certainly would have obviously preferred that the team won, especially since
me too, by the way.
Yeah, I was actually born in College Station. My dad's a university professor, taught at A&M, and then moved to Miami. So I spent some of my childhood years there. I'm never gonna hear the end of this one, but so they really let me down there in that sense. But overall, I will say, is it odd that I feel better about the team I was coming out of the game? Because, I mean, for years watching this team, even when they won, it felt like it was off. And, they look like a really good football team that just need to, like you said, it was like death by paper cuts. It was just, oh, God, if you could just, string a couple of these together without making the critical mistake. So I almost felt better coming out of the game than I have after wins in the past. Is that odd? Is that odd? Like, I don't know. I'm a little conflicted.
But I think that the way that Miami never gave up, right? I mean, they fought to the absolute end. You when you're at an environment like that and you have everything going against you, it's easy to give up, man. And that could have been an ugly blowout. And it wasn't. And those guys fought. They believed, in each other. When all things, were stacked against them, they kept going and they kept grinding. And so for me, man, I think that's what you probably saw. I think that's the energy you took away from the game. The disappointment that you heard from the players and from the coaching staff that, okay, this team's for real. Like, this hurt. They should grow from this. And so, that's where I'm looking at this and can't wait to see what's next.
So in terms of things that can be cleaned up, you mentioned, 5 trips to the red zone, only kicked a few field goals, some of the drops and the missed block. I know what play you're talking about was a receiver missing a block. Right. So what do you think overall of the red zone execution, the play calling, and the wide receiver play? I know you said it's correctable. It's not one person, but it did feel like it was kind of pervasive. And I know a lot of Miami fans, not necessarily the most rational bunch, are jumping all over the offensive coordinator, and it's kind of put up almost 400 yards against a very good defense. It's hard to really, knock it that much. But what are some things they could have maybe done differently, and what are things they can do to kind of get the wide receiver group a little bit more in sync?
Right. I mean, the biggest thing with those guys, I mean, I went back, watched the film, and counted 9 drops. I mean, that's inexcusable. And what stinks even more, though, is that your best player wasn't available. He breaks his foot or whatever the injury was to his lower body there. And I just have to think that he would have at least made up for half of those, right? He would have been targeted on at least half of those. And what would he have been able to do if in the situations? That's a little bit of what if. Those guys in the wide receiver room just need to, man, you need to spend extra time. You need to focus. You need to look that ball in, secure it over and over again in practice, after practice, before practice. Get on the jug machine, get with Tyler, get that consistency, get that rhythm, because now there's going to be questions of trust. It's like, okay, can I throw it to this guy? Is he going to be able to come down with it? And when you're playing a guessing game with your guys, you never want to be in that situation. And so a lot of work that can be done, but that's the good thing. It can be done. It's not a lack of speed. It's not a lack of athleticism. That's all there. You just got to go in and focus on the little things a little bit more to kind of hit on the, offensive coordinator criticism and the things, from, Coach Gaddis and things that I've seen there. This is one thing that I can promise you guys, and it is applicable to most situations. He did not drop a single pass. He did not miss a single throw. He didn't miss a block. He didn't make the wrong cut or wrong read. At the end of the day, we as players have to go and execute. It was never, my mindset when I'm in the huddle or we're lining up and they call something that maybe I don't agree with, I have to go do my best job. Because guess what? If we're all executing at 100%, the play will work. There's always something, that goes wrong from a player standpoint. And certainly there's schemes. I mean, if you run right into a blitz. Obviously, there's nothing you can do that. It's overloaded. So, maybe a little bit more creativity. Would like to see the ball in Tyler's hand a little bit more, throwing that football. But again, 9 drops. It's a trust thing. You're guessing, can my guys do it? Can they get involved? And would like to see a little bit more involvement of the tight end play probably down there. Get those big guys in space. Let's trust them and get them the rock.
I love that. This is a perfect segue here because you mentioned Tyler Van Dyke. Now, let's just talk about it, right? You played with some big time quarterbacks in your day. Yeah. Taj Boyd, Deshaun Watson. You got to see some greatness there with those guys. How would you rate the overall play so far this season? Because I know we saw, a lot of great throws and a great play from TBD last year. Overall play so far this year from Tyler Van Dyke. A lot of the fans kept saying, well, hey, to spark the team, let's put in Jake Garcia again. Not very, you can understand the Miami fans are probably some of the craziest in the country. I'm sure you can you feel that by now, but obviously we think is a little ludicrous. But anyways, the overall play of Tyler Van Dyke this season and in the Texas A&M game as well.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it has not been as productive, right? I mean, that's a matter of fact. He ended the season on an absolute tear. 6 straight 300-yard games, 6 straight 3+ touchdowns. You look at who he was throwing to. I mean, Charleston Rambo was fantastic. Harley was fantastic. Those guys were difference makers, and they're gone. And so you have to rebuild with other guys, and they're not doing their part. So now you're struggling. And again, that confidence thing it's a big deal. The one thing that I can tell you time and time again is that Tyler Van Dyke can make throws that few people in this country can. And we saw it in the Texas A&M game. He'll put that thing right over somebody's head, right where it needs to be, can deliver strikes like few can. So he is still the same player. We just have to help him. You just got to catch the ball when he throws it to you and really get going. I would like to see a couple more shots down the field. I mean, he's got such a rocket launcher of an arm. And in those first couple of games, Miami didn't have to throw the ball to win or to score. I mean, they ran at will. And so it's a weird situation where you're limiting your guy because you don't need to, but at the same time, you have to build this cohesion and this trust between receiver and quarterback that it's just, it's going to be interesting. Once it clicks, though, I mean, look out. This guy is tremendous. He's going to be a first-round talent whenever he leaves. So all of that is there. They just have to keep figuring it out, keep growing together.
So quick follow-up on that. You mentioned that cohesion, that trust. How contagious is that lack of, I guess, execution and trust? Does that – because I feel like that affected the whole passing game on Saturday, where once it started, they could not get out of that. The throw would just be off. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just so mental, man, that this game, I mean, literally people are trying to take your head off every play. And so mentally, if you're thinking about catching a football, or if you're thinking about where do I have to go to get this instead of what's open and where can I just throw it, it slows everything down. It makes the process so much harder, where this is a very easy game. Take what you get that ball out and let's ride. And so, I think with that, you talk about that, how contagious is it? It's, man, when you get down and you see body language, you see guys arguing, things of that nature on the sideline, absolutely. I mean, it's almost the place of, can we do this instead of let's go do this? And so, to me, just remembering who you are, just reminding yourself, this is the you. We're some bad dudes. Let's get it going. I think at the end of the day, having a nice reset this week, and then, it's going to get really jacked up.
Yeah. By the way, a couple more questions here for Eric Mac Lain. Again, thank you so much, man, for joining us on the show. Truly appreciate it. And so I got to mention it, right? I got to throw a little bit of not shade. I'm not throwing shade at you, Eric. All right. I'm not. But I saw the ACC power rankings.
Oh, no, come on.
All right. And I saw you put Miami at number 7. No, I'm just messing with you. Look, I get it. How do you come up with those rankings? What has Miami shown you or not shown you, right? To either put them further up in that ranking? Because look, I get it, right? Clemson, NC State looked the part. Pitt, even though they're missing Keenan Slovis, well, they missed him this week. I'm not sure what's going to happen moving forward. You've got some now. Sam Hartman is back at Wake, so on and so forth. The one that's interesting, although they're playing really well, Syracuse. Okay, Syracuse is up there. I know they're playing really well, but look, at the end of the day, I see that. I see the number 7 ranking. I would have put them closer up to number, maybe top 3 or 4. But no, I'm just kidding. How do you come up now? I'm just joking around. But how do you come up with that ranking there?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you giving me a platform to explain. And what I think is interesting about really the way that I do these things is if you see your team fall, a lot of people just assume, oh, it's because we did bad. We did this. We're getting punished. With my rankings, man, a lot of the time it's the other teams are just doing well. Syracuse is playing out of their mind right now, defensively, offensively. They were the only ACC team going into this weekend that was top 30 on offense and defense. They're just playing that well. They played against a Louisville team that has Malik Cunningham that is so electric, can run all over the yard. They bottled him up and did very impressive. This past weekend, Syracuse, their star player, Sean Tucker, went for 50 yards. If you showed me that a year ago, they would have lost by 50. Guess what? They won. They found a way to win. Their quarterback, Garrett Schrader, playing out of his mind right now. So it's more so putting them up, celebrating them and what they're doing. And the way that they're playing, I think, can hang with those teams in front of them. When I look at Miami, and the reason that I got to 7 was just the struggles offensively and not being able to execute. We saw it, early in the game 2 weeks ago and just not being able to get things going on offense, having to do a flea flicker to get to a touchdown. And then against A&M, who lost to App State, we all know that, not a super big penalty, but couldn't get in the end zone. I thought Miami was going to run and score all over these guys, and they just couldn't do it. The good thing is this isn't the ACC of a couple of years ago where it's if you're not number 2, you're a bad football team. Like the league is showing extraordinary depth. I think for folks that primarily focus on one team or a couple of teams maybe don't know that, the ACC is balling this year. And to be 7, that's not the end of the world. The good thing is just go win. You'll keep climbing that list and be back where you want to be.
Man, you stole Vicious Thunder. I know he.
I'll ask it anyway. So because I do want to kind of elaborate on the question a little bit, but I was going to ask you overall about kind of the quality of the ACC. But just as a follow up, what do you think about the perception of the ACC? Because we're Miami guys. We follow the conference pretty heavily, and we like what we experience on a week to week basis is good, exciting football.
Right.
And a lot of the perception is basketball schools. This is, of
course.
I mean, a lot of what I heard going into this Texas A&M game was how will Miami deal with the atmosphere? It's like they play at Virginia Tech every other year. They play at Clemson. Like this is not new. There's big time football played in the ACC. How do you, as kind of, I don't want to overstate, but one of the faces of the ACC, how do you kind of feel the perception matches up to reality? Because we love the conference, we love the play, and we kind of. It is disappointing to hear it kind of, talked down to. And it's like, no, we're playing good football out there.
Well, I think the biggest thing, is, these out of conference games. How do you perform? How does the league perform? And, of course, wins and losses, what gets most people's attention. But, are you getting blown out? Are you in the game? Are you winning the game? And so, to have games like West Virginia where Pittsburgh is on the only show in town on national TV and, has that heroic win. When you see an FSU going against LSU on Sunday night, the only team playing, everybody's watching that. So those are the opportunities that, man, you can really make some headway. You can say, okay, this conference is for real. This conference is going to do it. Syracuse against, Purdue. So it's great to see those teams getting those dubs, flying that flag, getting it done there. And that's how you change it. When you're playing against the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, like go out there, fly the flag, whoever's playing, and get it done. And so I think to see that, but also to see kind of the bottom rise up a little bit. I mean, look how Duke is playing right now in the Coastal. They have a quarterback, and they're moving the ball extremely well. Look at Syracuse. Did not think they would be here at all. And I have them where I do in my power rankings. Look at a team in Florida State that quite frankly has been bad in the last couple of years, playing at a very high level, probably going to be ranked if they take care of business, this weekend. So when you look at all that, my man, it's the elevating of the conference as a whole. That's how you change the narrative. That's how you change the perception. Go out and get those W's.
Last question here for you, Emac. Look, the future looks bright with Miami now with the new regime here, but also you start to see that the play is a lot better as well. It's a little more exciting to see how well they're playing on certain on the defensive side of the ball. Offense, they got to clean some stuff up, but the future is looking bright. kind of give us an idea of where you see Miami at the end of the season, ACC regular season play. Do you see them kind of challenging for that ACC championship game against, Clemson, NC State, one of those teams as well?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I think, just the way that the season could potentially shake out, I think that last game at the end of the season, I think that's going to be a play-in game. Miami playing Pittsburgh. I think the winner of that is going to go to the ACC championship game. And why would you want anything less? You want those type of high stakes. You want that type of game to matter, so much. And then once you get there, you take care of business. You're looking at potentially playing to get a playoff bid and getting to the college football playoff. So all of Miami's goals right there in front of them. Again, all the mistakes that were made, you have to feel good because they're fixable in a game that you're on the road. You have all that adversity, and yet you hang in there, and you had a chance, to march in there and get in the end zone and potentially force overtime after you go for 2. So the biggest thing for me is to see how Miami comes out this week, to see them play with wind in their sails, going hard, super excited, and just the execution, has to take a step forward.
And I think I can speak for every single Miami Hurricane fan or anybody that's follows the Canes. First of all, thank you for coming on the show. But as I said, I think I can speak for everybody that we send our best and our love to Coach Mark Richt.
No doubt.
We love him on South Florida. Yeah,
definitely let him know. Absolutely. We're always thinking about him down here. And you guys do an excellent job on the huddle and everything you guys do with the ACC Network. You really kick some serious some butt there. So, again, Eric, thank you so much for joining us again on the show. And I think we should have you on before that Clemson game.
Come on, baby. Let's do it.
Oh, boy. He's not going to be as sympathetic to Miami at that point.
Some friendly banter going on there on that one.
That's right. Hey, we can do it. We can do it. Appreciate you guys having me, man. I will send all the love and all that to Coach Rick. Can't wait to see him this weekend. And, appreciate your guys' time. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate it. Thank you so much again. Eric Mac Lain, everybody, from the huddle on the ACC Network. Well, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a great interview. You could tell he just loved talking football.
Yeah, man, he was absolutely.
He's awesome.
He was absolutely awesome. We loved it, and I guarantee you, he'll definitely do some stuff. He loves to kind of interact with us on Twitter and on Instagram as well. So we're really excited about what's going to happen with this show coming down the road as well. We've got some really cool things going on, but he hit on a lot of things that we spoke about earlier, and it's just interesting that the perception nationally now is looking a little bit different than what we saw in previous years. I think a lot of the national people, maybe not everybody, is completely convinced yet, but you're starting to see a little bit of a shift in the way that they are looking at the Miami Hurricanes program. So we're really really excited about what he had to say there. And again, we'll see this week if they clean up some stuff. I mean, it's Middle Tennessee State, so we're not going to really. I don't want to say that this is going to be, where we're going to be able to tell if anybody's been able to step up, but
it will be interesting to watch the receiver rotation.
Yes. We just heard in the last couple of hours that another bad break for the Miami Hurricane wide receiver core, as if it couldn't get any thinner. We've heard now that Jacoby George has suffered an injury. Looks like he's going to be out indefinitely. A lot of people are saying it was a Fernie. Look at Fernie wrote saying, "Oh, Jazz got dressed up." Yeah, man, and I changed real quick too. You didn't even notice it. Now, obviously, was recorded.
Can you tell I work from home?
Yeah, Vicious in the same stuff. So big blow again for the Miami Hurricane wide receiver core as Jacoby George is now out indefinitely for what looks like to be at least a while, right? At least 3 or 4 weeks with it looks like it's a broken thumb that he suffered on a block. Of all things, suffered it on a block. So that kind of stings because he came back, made a couple plays here and there, caught a couple balls, and was getting ready to kind of get back into the swing of things. And as everybody knows by now, I'm a big fan of Jacoby George. So I was really excited to see him come back and could possibly fill that role as the playmaker, but we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. So now it gives the opportunity for some of these other guys, to kind of step up. And when I say other guys, Kobe Young is a guy that we really haven't spoken about. The transfer out of a JUCO, coming in. Isaiah Horton, who served the suspension, now is back. Was injured as well, so now he's coming back. Another guy, Frank Ladson. We haven't heard a peep from him. Blue, you mentioned him last week. We haven't really heard jack out of Frank Ladson. Romello Brinson really didn't look great either last week. So, Blue, where do we go from here when it comes to the wide receiver? Who is it that, I mean, aside from the obvious answer, everybody, but now you're talking about we're going to have to go a little deeper, right? And go to Kobe Young and some of these other guys as well.
Well, it's the guy who makes the plays. He'll stay on the field. That's the way it is. And if they don't, they'll just they'll go to the wishbone. And
oh man, they might be successful with it, right?
Yeah, I'm not. You know what, guys? I'm not going to worry that Jacoby George is out, and I mean he's okay. I mean he's been one of the biggest disappointments on the team. I know that you like him. I mean I thought he would come out and just take over. He looked awful in the spring. I saw him 3 different times, and he dropped balls left and right. So, I mean, to me, it's not earth shattering. Somebody else has to step up. He didn't do anything that won the game the other night. So, like a lot of coaches will say, we could win, we could lose with or without you. I mean, to me, I think that guys who need to step up, Romello Brinson, he was the guy in high school that everybody said, we need to have a guy who can make plays. And I think Romello Brinson fights for balls better than anybody. Well, you know what? We're not at practice, and that's the whole thing. Mario Cristobal and is not sabotaging the team by starting guys who perform in practice. So what you get out there, I mean, I know people bring up Skinner and Horton. Evidently, they're not getting it done the way they need to in practice because they're never going to, everything's at stake. And he's not, and that's the one thing I used to say about Manny Diaz. And people goes, how come this guy's not playing? How come that? Because evidently they weren't performing in practice. No coach in the world is going to sabotage his team by taking the best player and not playing. So what happens is if he wants to stick with that slogan is, you practice how you play, well, so be it. And that's why you don't see a lot of these guys against Middle Tennessee State. I mean, now you got to go into games understanding that there's teams out there. I mean, I looked at UCLA playing stupid South Alabama. Come on, they won by 1 point. So to me, you can never let your guard down. And Miami right now, they're like a good prize fighter with a bad right hand. And if they can't use that right hand, they could get beat. They could get knocked out. So they've got to find answers there. And that's where I see. I think you got to get a little bit more innovative in your offense. Like I said, you got a guy who could catch the ball out of the backfield like Rooster, and he did it last year against Louisville. He did it the last couple of years that he played. I'm soured on these guys who everybody talks about all the time. And when they get a chance to produce, they don't. And that's my point. And that's why Miami lost the other day. And Vish brought it up. We need playmakers. And playmakers constitute somebody the other night, one of those 8 or 9 balls. And even we just heard that there were drops. And that to me, that's why right now, if the average person looks at Xavier Restrepo and they go, he's 5'0" and he's this, he's that. He's a playmaker, catches the ball, 10 catches in 2 games. So that's what I'm saying. I mean, if Jacoby George is that valuable, he would have had 8 catches for 150 yards and scored twice. Okay. To me, he's just another dude right now. I say, you stick with Redding. And you keep your tight ends are the key. So you mix them up. You got a running game. I just think you need one guy. See, and it's a shame. Brashard Smith was given an opportunity. They targeted him twice. So that's what I'm saying, guys. I'm not going to paint a picture so rosy, about, let's use this guy, use that guy, until you get a guy who can prove to himself that he can catch the ball. I mean, I look at, watching the Ram game yesterday and looking at Cooper Kupp. That's a playmaker. That guy catches every freaking thing, and he advances the ball. And I'm not saying Miami has a Cooper Kupp on their roster, but they've got to have somebody. And like Vish said, they got to have somebody to catch the ball in situations where you move the sticks and get into the end zone. And right now they don't have that guy, and they've got to. I mean, you know what? And I know that Middle Tennessee State is not A&M, but at the same time, you still got to execute to win. All right. So Miami's obviously they run the ball well, so run the ball, but there's going to be times that they're going to have to go upfield. And who's going to be the guy? I say it's Redding. I think Redding is a guy that he runs well. He's got good hands. I just think that they have to get with him all this week and say to him, listen, you're the guy. Act like it. Okay. And that's.
Well, he dropped a couple balls during the game as well. He dropped.
Yeah. But you know what? Right? I think that he's a guy that, he's got the length. He's an intelligent kid. He runs really well. It's got to be somebody, Jazz. I mean, it just can't. We can't just keep passing it off to, let's use this guy. Let's use that guy. It's got to be.
I don't think just because you drop a ball. I mean, at this point, you got to stick to them. You got to stay consistent.
I agree,
and that's the same thing that I'm talking about with some of these. And I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call you out. Irrational ass Canes fans who are on Twitter and on social media talking about let's bench TVD and let's bring in Jake Garcia. Right. Like, you got to be out of your mind.
There's the answer right there.
Okay, we need a spark. Don't give me that we need a spark. That come on now. I mean,
let somebody help him out for once instead of freaking.
Yeah.
I mean, A&M would have loved to have somebody like him. Believe me.
Yeah, no kidding. Vish and DJ, I want to get your thoughts on that, right? Because we're obviously talked about the wide receivers. If you want to give your take on the whole Jacoby Jones situation, Jacoby George situation.
Maybe he can catch.
Maybe he can catch. Maybe he can play.
Start him right now.
He was a downfield threat. I'll tell you that right now. He was that downfield threat.
I don't think he would have fumbled that punt. But anyways, real quickly on that and the situation with, and we got to address it because I think that the Hurricanes fans need to calm down because they're one way before the game, right? And so this is the way I see it, right? Before I get your thoughts, because I got to go on a little bit of red here because you've got you've got 75 to 90% of these damn Hurricane fans that right before Texas A&M loses to App State, we're like, oh well, all we got to do is go up there and play well, look the part, and and we'll be okay even if we lose, right? Then all of a sudden, Texas A&M loses to App State. And now it's like, oh, we don't blow them out of the water. This is disappointing. Josh Gaddis needs to get fired. Well, here we go with Mario Cristobal. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And then we absolutely dominate the game, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, you got to fire him. And TVD sucks. He's not a Heisman candidate anymore. You should have put Jake Garcia in because all these guys suck and they can't. Come on, guys. Calm the hell down. This is and Vish, I want you to elaborate on this because you spoke about it so well yesterday when I asked you about the whole deep TVD Jake Garcia thing. Is everybody wants, the shiny new object, Jake Garcia because he's so accurate. Stop it. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Vish, why? Why do people say this, number one? And would it have made a difference? Would it have made it better?
So, yeah, you rephrased the question because I was like, yeah, it would have made a difference. It probably would have been worse. Right. But so going back to the receivers, because I think there's a through line here. For whatever reason, and Blue touched on this probably a lot more eloquently than I will, but everyone thinks the backup is not playing because the coach has a vendetta or whatever. No, it's because they're not as good most of the time. Coaches can make mistakes too. They're human, but they're watching them in practice every day. Do you really think they're looking at these receivers and be like, well, Ladson's just dominating in practice, but we're not going to play him because, I don't know, reasons? Like, what are we talking about? And, Gaddis talked today a lot about how shallow the wide receiver pool is here right now and the lack of scholarship receivers they have. If there is anyone performing well in practice, they're going to play a lot right now. So the idea that there's some, like, magic bullet that's sitting on the bench that they haven't fired from a receiver standpoint is just, it's fantasy. But I do think there's an opportunity now it started with X being out, now with George also, being out. If someone practices really well, they have an opportunity to walk into the starting lineup, but they got to earn it in practice. And this goes straight to the way you're talking about the quarterbacks. You do not try to, let me get a spark here and upset your entire season to try and let's fire them up. First of all, we weren't lethargic. What spark? We were moving the ball up and down the field. So I don't know exactly what they were looking for. This is not a situation where, quite frankly, we've had in the past where the team showed up disinterested and you're like, I'm pulling that guy because he's not even trying or whatever. His head's not in the game. No, we were locked in, just didn't execute well. And you can understand these players, they spring ball, work through the entire offseason. The quarterback is a special position. You did not willy-nilly sub your quarterbacks in and out. Doesn't matter what team it is, they're looking to the quarterback as the leader. It's the one player you don't sub. So you're talking about you prep through the spring, you prep through all the summer, you play 2 games, things get a little rough on the road. Oh, throw all that out and let's shove someone else in there. Are you crazy? What are we talking about? No, you stay the course here. You see it through. If Jake Garcia is better in practice and he earns the starting job, then you make him the starter. But then you got to understand, the only way you go to that is if you're this is for keeps. This man is the starting quarterback now. He's earned the job. You don't do it to flippant reasons or, TVD's having a bad game or a bad half or whatever. You don't make a change because of that. That's going to, even if he came in and played better, which I'm highly skeptical was even really possible. Even if he somehow did that, and were we going to win the game? Maybe, probably not still, because the drops, how is he going to make them catch it? We got a couple of different counts here. Blue had 8, Mac Lain had 9. A lot of drops either way. Was Garcia's ball going to, is there stickum on it? They were going to drop those passes too. So that's not so what exactly was going to happen there? And then once you do that, then you've distracted the team. Then you got the media talking quarterback controversy. Who's the starter? All for what? TVD was not playing that bad. You only make the quarterback move unless you're sure I'm going to make this stick. This guy's now my quarterback, right? And there's no way Garcia earned that. So everyone relax. We'll be fine here.
Yeah, and I'm going to get to you on this, DJ, but I got to address this, what Ben just wrote on the chat here. Gaddis calls plays like he's using Iowa's playbook from 1993. Guys,
that is Big Ten football. That is Big Ten football. And hopefully he will switch it up. I'm not saying it's right. Hopefully he will switch it up. But that's exactly what he did when he was at Michigan. And I think as the season goes on, hopefully he'll be diverse in terms of play calling. But that right there is the Big Ten football in him. And
but hold on a second, DJ. Yeah. We had almost 400 yards of total offense. We moved the ball up and down the field. We just could not execute in the red zone. And right. Whether it was the play calling, whether it was lack of execution when we had the opportunities in the red zone to score or to get yards, one way or the other, it was not a terribly called game by Josh Gaddis.
No, but fans want the sexy play calling, and sometimes it's not sexy. That's what
he definitely could have been more creative. He probably could have done some things. But again, he also did mention, which makes perfect sense. How are you going to throw into 8-man coverages? You got to be more creative, and he understands that, and he knows he's going to make those adjustments. But we're talking about an offense that ran for 176 yards. Yeah. Okay, and had every opportunity to score points.
Jazz, we actually
and the players did not execute.
Yeah, we actually talked about this on Friday when we were on the Scouting Combine show. Jazz and I did a crossover with them. Check it out on this YouTube feed. But we talked about how we're going to come out and try to run the ball. App State was effective. If we're effective, we're going to keep running it.
Right.
Why wouldn't you? You're picking up you just have to be able to also supplement it with just easy passes, and we couldn't hit them. I'm not saying Gas was perfect because he certainly wasn't, and I can certainly some of that.
But he didn't call a terrible game.
Yeah, but this idea that this guy is terrible, I'm I don't know what game you watched.
He's the defending Broyles Award winner, which is given to the College Assistant of the Year. There's a crap ton of college assistants. This guy is no slouch.
But Ben, again, what do you mean they don't have Big Ten players? We just ran for 176 yards.
That's
the very definition of Big Ten football is run the ball hard with your big uglies in the front in the trenches, right? And on the other side of the football, the same thing.
Yeah.
Like we literally did exactly what a Big Ten football team does,
Right.
with the exception of not executing when we threw the ball down the field. I get that. We didn't
Right.
execute.
We
dropped the ball.
It should be noted we threw 41 times.
Okay, that's a perfect segue to this. DJ, 21 of 41 doesn't look great. Looks mediocre. 50% passer completion percentage. No touchdowns. I get all of that. But you factor in the 8 or 9 drops, and now you're looking at 30 for 41 with possibly a couple touchdowns, right?
Right.
But let's just say 30 or 41 looks pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm not saying you woulda, coulda, shoulda. I get that, right? Hindsight's 20/20. But the fact of the matter is we dropped the ball 8 or 9 times. And those are completions that we should have had. Okay, so now the stat line doesn't look that bad. Number one. Number two, he made adjustments in the second half. He went like 16 of 20 in the second half. What are we talking about here? Like, talk to me a little bit about that. And Blue, I'll kind of turn it to you on that DVD situation as well right after DJ.
Well, I think high percentage throws may not mean 25-yard deep throws down the field, and it may. It's not the sexy play. It's not the big highlight, but it is efficient. And, we saw TVD make adjustments in the second half, and, he didn't play a bad game. And I thought, honestly, the coverage by Texas A&M was very good. I thought they did a good job of covering the receivers, in addition to, honestly, the drops that we had. That also didn't help our cause. But, I thought that the game plan for what it was as balanced as it could have been, and at times we didn't move with urgency, but I definitely understood where the play calling was coming from, because at certain points in the game, Parrish got hot. You could see that, he had his sea legs under him, so to speak, and he was running really well. And it's tough to balance, passing the football and running the football when both are working well. But when you have a hot running back, for example, you don't want to, give that up or give that away. And at the same time that was happening, Van Dyke was executing shorter throws with efficiency. And so, yes, there was, again, the questionable play calling in the red zone. But overall, I thought Van Dyke played decently, all things considered. I thought Texas A&M played a pretty solid game, defensively, and I thought Gaddis did the most with what he could, given that his star receiver was out and the fact that Texas A&M was bringing a ton of pressure.
Blue, your thoughts on TVD's play, or just overall play in the Texas A&M game, and also the play calling for Gaddis in the red zone. What are your thoughts and your opinions on that?
I did, like Vish said, I mean, first of all, you're never going to change this guy. I mean, he's still a winner. Let's say he dropped 8. They dropped 8 passes. If he would have gotten 4 more completions, he would have been close to 300 yards and maybe a touchdown or 2, and no one would be saying anything. It's not him. It's not him. Come on. You watch any quarterback in America, whether it's college or pro or whatever it is, you got to have help. I mean, there's guys that make out. I saw, like I said, I brought up Cooper Kupp before. He made like 5 catches yesterday that made Matthew Stafford look like a freaking Hall of Famer. But that's what you need. That's why I keep yelling and saying playmakers.
A good slot receiver. Cooper Kupp, Xavier Restrepo,
I'm not, you see, I'm not dwelling on this game, because we know what the deal is, guys. I mean, there's no hiding what it is. There's no playmakers, and I 1,000,000,000% agree with what Vish said. If there was guys in practice that were getting it done, they're not going to not play them. So I just think that what you're in a situation now is you got to find one if you're going to have a successful season. I know that the Hurricane fans don't want to hear that, but listen, I said at the beginning of the year when we were like, giving our predictions, that A&M and Clemson were given. They were. For me, they were. And then Miami always finds a way to lose a game or two. So I just don't see how a team's going to go from 7-5 and just all of a sudden start making plays, in 1 year.
Especially when you have a lot of the same players that are coming back. This is a culture shift. This is a culture
I know.
shift.
It's going to be a rebuild.
Yeah.
But you know what? And we look at it because obviously we do a Kane show and you want to be optimistic and you don't want to go, well, they'll be 6-6 because no one will listen and you won't be realistic. And, and I could hear it now. But that's not why I said that. The only reason is, I keep saying every time someone makes a prediction or everybody tells me this, I say, give me a reason why. So give me a reason why with your two best receivers, two most reliable receivers gone, that it's going to be better this year. Mario's a great coach, but he's not a magician. I mean, let's face it. He's not going to, and even he would admit, because he can't, Gaddis can't go out and make those plays. He can't go out and do those things. So if they're going to criticize him for for making the wrong calls when people are dropping balls, that's not fair, because if they make those catches, he's a genius. So make up your mind,
Yep.
And that's the way I look at it.
This is a funny one here. Ben is on a roll. Ben is on a roll today, but going from Lashley to Gaddis, it's like going from Lincoln Road to Dixie Highway. I mean, that's just it. At this point, it's comical, Ben. I'm not sure what's going on because, I mean, at this point, I guess it doesn't really matter that he won the award for the best assistant coach, right? Last year, the Ryan Broyles, the Broyles Award.
We could use Ryan Broyles.
We could use Ryan Broyles too, right? Can't we? I keep throwing out these wide receiver references, and it's like, we could have used that guy this weekend. But I mean,
but you have who you have there, Jazz.
I know, but I think that's just ridiculous. Josh Gaddis is one of the best offensive minds in college football.
Well, I think
different offense.
So I'll be a little bit more sympathetic to Ben's plight than maybe you are right now, Jazz, in that I think the context matters, and if you look at from the point of view of receiver core is already thin, then best receiver is out, and as Blue mentioned, Restrepo hardly played last year, and now he's like, this guy is the guy because we lost our best receivers. So already we're starting on, all right, we're trying to replace this. Then that guy gets injured. You take it from the context of third game in a new offense, first time against a team with athletes like this. That I'm assuming someone Blue maybe will understand this reference. But
Santana Fleming is a stud, by the way. He is a very good player.
All right, there we go. Yeah. So if you take that in there, and then you see.
By the way, thanks for the dono, Lakers all day dope.
Yeah.
$4.99 dono, appreciate it.
Yep, and then you know that doesn't matter. That was Michigan. All right, well they were in the playoffs last year. I'd like to be there, but I think if you take that in the context, take it like it was really close and it was just a little out of sync, and look at it from the standpoint of it's nearly there. Yes, we need better talent as well, but you could see this clicking. You make a few of those catches, you could then see the points kind of catch up to the yardage. And then we're not having this conversation. On the other hand, I can see it from Ben's point of view, which is like, this was pulling teeth for 4 quarters.
Yeah, but
right. And then
Lashley's offense didn't take off until like week 4.
Well, I mean, I don't
or week 5 anyways.
Yeah, so
and it absolutely matters, ATL Kane. It absolutely matters what he did at Michigan. That's how you.
Yeah. How do you win the Broyles Award?
Yeah. How do you win the Broyles Award? You do your job. You do it well. And then you get a promotion or you get moved over and you expect to do the same thing. And he's doing exactly what he did at Michigan.
Yeah, but again, I think the context matters. And if this was in year 2 or 3, we'd be like, what is wrong with their offense that the players still can't get it?
I get that.
But so that's why I'm a little sympathetic, because if you just treat that game in a vacuum without the context, there's a lot more to be upset about than when you look at the overall program, the trajectory, how underperforming we've done on these stages before in terms of performance, not necessarily in terms of results, because sometimes we pull these things out and you're like, I don't know how we won that game. But in terms of actual performance, we did dominate that game. So again, I think when you're looking long term, that it's a bit different. In terms of, but if you look at that game, I can understand the frustration there. I do want to address.
Okay, and I'm sorry. I understand the frustration because it's like, oh, we've seen this before. But I think, and I know it's very cliche to be like, all right, you got to give him time to, but again, if you look at it in all the context, again, we lost our 2 best wide receivers. This is a brand new offense. So you got to look at it both sides. I get the frustration, but I think that at the same time, you got to understand this is one of the best minds in college football.
Yep.
He's working with what he has as well. And Blue mentioned it. There's no playmakers on the offensive side of the football from a wide receiver perspective. So he's got to figure this out. This was the perfect game. Blue, and maybe you can kind of agree or disagree. This is the perfect game to know now what you got and to really evaluate this team and make adjustments now moving forward, because you're going to have to anyways. ACC play is coming up. You got to make the evaluations. You got to make the adjustments. And I think from here on out, we're going to be able to see what type of team this is.
Well, after Saturday, the next 5 games, the combined records are 14-2 of the teams that you're going to play. So, you know what? I don't care who they are, but they're learning how to win. See, and that's important. So I'm just going to maintain, guys, that we just got to take it week by week, see what happens this week against Middle Tennessee State, see who steps up. Because as we remember Southern Mississippi, Jazz, we sat there and watched that first half. And, Middle Tennessee State, I would imagine, is comparable to Southern Mississippi. They got some playmakers on the team. I was looking at them today. They're not terrible. So they're going to push back. It's not going to be Bethune-Cookman. They may lose 48-7, but you know what? The first half, and the thing is, Miami just didn't come out and play with any urgency the last 2 games. They really didn't. I mean, making mistakes and you could tell me, oh, they put up 218 yards in the first half, but what did it get them? 3 points? So the proof is like I keep going back to what Vish said. You know what? You got to use your players who are making plays, and that's it. I don't care who they are. You know what? I go back to the old thing. If you're wearing a Miami uniform, you're on scholarship, you're there. If you're making plays, we'll use you. I don't care if you're a freshman or a 10th year senior. We got to use you. We got to use you, and that's the way it is. And Miami's got to, so far I see there's no favorites. Nobody plays any favorites because Mario wouldn't be here and he wouldn't be successful if he played favorites. I mean, how many people probably got in his ear when he got here and said, oh, if you play Restrepo, you're going to stink. Okay.
Yeah.
But what he saw in practice from the day he got there to last week or 2 weeks ago, he saw nothing but somebody who was a winner and somebody who wanted to be there and somebody who produced. Right. Again, Corey Flagg. Everybody, he's 5'10", 190. Well, right now he's the second leading tackler through the first 3 games. So,
we'll definitely mention the defense because I think it deserves mentioning. But Vish, these comments from Vincent, I would love to address because I think he brings up great points. I don't know if I agree with everything, but again, at the same time,
I'm pretty much agreeing with what he's saying.
The reason we lost because Mario chose to kick field goal, chose field goals. He played to keep the game close, not to win the game or go for the jugular 7 points, or you got a great field position. The problem I see with that,
and then Gary with the similar.
Yeah, the problem I see with that is that you weren't executing in the red zone. Okay, you weren't finding open receivers. The play calling wasn't the best. So I don't know if that's necessarily a product of Mario. Yes, he chose to go for the field goals. I get that. He chose to go get the points, right? As opposed to score a touchdown or throw a throw at in the end zone or make those type of plays. But at the same time, you're struggling to score in the end zone. Your receivers are dropping balls, okay? And I understand that you want to go for the jugular, but you're right. You're not going for the jugular. You're down. You're not up. So what are we talking about there in the sense of why would going for it on fourth down there been better than taking the points at that point, especially with the way your defense is playing?
Well, he needs to probably have a couple of cafecitos with Mike McDaniel. So
look. To answer your question, Jazz, this is math, and so I'm pretty much in total agreement with what Gary and Vincent are saying. So when we were down inside the 5-yard line and I think it was 3rd and goal from the 6, and we run it. First of all, if you're going to call a running play there, you gotta be thinking 2 downs, right? Otherwise, throw it in the end zone, or if it's not there, throw it away, whatever. But you got to take a shot at the end zone. Or if you're going to run it, to me that means you're playing for 2 downs. The second thing is this is towards the end of the 3rd quarter. If you're going to kick that field goal, you're still leaving a 2-possession game. So you've now basically said this possession we had did not fundamentally change the game. I got to get the ball back twice and 2 touchdowns, basically, or a field goal and a touchdown to 2. So you've not really fundamentally altered what you have to do to win the game by making those 3 points. So you're 4 yards from the end zone. You got to go for the end zone there. You have to go for it. Now, if you don't, let's play the other side. Let's say you say we haven't scored since the first drive of the game because at that point, because we missed those 2 other field goals and we kept blowing it. So we actually hadn't scored in almost basically the entire game because we scored on the first drive. So let's say you're going to take that approach of, we just need these points, settle everyone down. Okay. Then you've now set yourself up. You need to score twice in the fourth quarter at least. Because if you miss that 2, that's another possession, right? So you need either 2 touchdowns or you need a touchdown, a 2, and a field goal. You have got to play with urgency in the fourth quarter. They happened to punt it. We started the fourth quarter with the ball on our own 1. We took 8 minutes off the clock to drive into field goal range and kick a field goal. You cannot do that. Once you kick to that field goal at the end of the third quarter, you have lost the right to do that. You've got to go through your plays quicker. The worst case of this was when we made those, which, by the way, they didn't call holding the entire game. They called it 2 plays in a row on us, which give me a break. But because everyone was holding on both teams, by the way, like we were watching it on the big screen, they're like, there's holding on every play. Okay, they're not calling it. Then all of a sudden they called it twice. But now you're 2nd and 30. There was like 5 minutes left. You're basically you're going to have to punt this. Like you're not converting 2nd and 30. So, you're on mute, so I can keep going, or
hold on. Sorry about that. Timeout. Blue, I know we got to get you out of here because you got other engagements.
Okay.
Real quick, your 2 second thought of Middle Tennessee State. What do you want to see from Miami, and then get you out of here?
Come out and play. Like we said, come out and take it to them. Run, pass. Find some playmakers, and that's all. You know what? If you don't have guys that are going to make plays, those next 5 weeks are going to be really tough.
Yeah.
They're going to be really tough. I don't want to keep sugarcoating it for Miami fans, and as much as I'd like to, but. And Vish, I know you agree, and just by agreeing with what they just the 2 guys just said, you're not just going to be better just because you say you're going to be better. You've got to prove it, and that's what I said. They got to come out on Saturday and just kick butt. I don't care what it is, but find those playmakers. Use some of the guys like in the Bethune-Cookman game where they made plays. I don't know why they made plays. I don't care if it's Bethune. If you're wide open against Bethune and you're wide open against Texas A&M, should it make a difference? You should still come up with the catch. I don't think Texas A&M's coverage was that great where they were all over everybody. There was a lot of guys in space that dropped balls. So they got to stop that. All right, guys, I got to run. Good seeing you. Are we going to do a pregame this week? You're going to be there.
Yeah,
you're muted.
Yes, we will. Yeah. We'll definitely do. We'll do a pregame show for sure live from.
So at 2:30, we're going to do the pregame
from Hard Rock. Yeah, the game starts.
Okay,
at
guys,
2:30.
take care.
Yeah, I'm going to join for that as well. So, continuing my rant on the clock management. So,
and by the way, I agree to a certain extent. I understand what you guys are saying.
So to me, the most egregious one was after those 2 holdings. Now, I mean, you're pretty much looking. There was roughly 5 minutes in the clock up. You pretty much know you're going to be punting this ball. So you need to now really be managing the clock because you got to stop, get the ball back. We ran another 2 minutes off on the drive on those last few plays, including, this is unacceptable. When we're lining up to punt, we huddled to punt the ball and then ran the clock all the way down. And then because we are huddling, which by the way, normally we don't, I don't know what that was. Maybe we tried to fool them or something. Although it was like 4th and 24.
The lack of urgency.
Yeah, the lack of urgency there. And then because we were screwing around like that, that's the one where we lined up in the illegal formation. We punted it down to the 1.
Right.
And, I was thinking at that point, now, of course, when we repunted it, they fumbled, and that's a whole other thing that we didn't recover that. But if you get them on the 1, there's potential for a safety there when you get them out of their end zone, especially the way we were dominating their offensive line. Yeah. Now all of a sudden it's 17-11, and they're kicking, like doing a free kick back to you. That's game on. Because even on that last drive, we got it back with like a minute left. What are the chances we all of a sudden are able to put it in the end zone and get the 2?
What are the chances we catch a ball?
Right. I mean, so that was still very long.
That's how it ended, right?
So we just. I mean, to me, And Vincent mentioned at the end of the half, that was also a time I would have definitely called a timeout. We let the clock run out. But I can kind of see, they were near midfield. We weren't moving the ball. I could see Mario being like, let's just get in the half, reset. We're not executing well. So I'm not going to have my quarterback, try to do something here.
Right.
But overall, the lack of urgency when we those field goals, all those decisions to kick field goals, forced us to have to get extra possessions to then win the game. You then have to take that into your clock management. So my biggest issue, I would have definitely gone for it at the end of the third quarter when it was 17-3. I can still justify his decision by saying, look, we need to get points. It had been almost 3 full quarters without scoring. We just need to reset there, get our headspace back. But at that point, then you got to play the rest of the game based on that decision, which is we got to go faster. We very well might need three possessions in the fourth quarter. And then to embark on that marathon drive that resulted in another field goal. To me, it put us right behind the gun. And the way we were moving the ball, it's just we could have gotten several more opportunities to blow a drive. So it's kind of you're just waiting for a play to break. So I don't know that it necessarily would have mattered just because we couldn't finish anything. But yeah, I definitely had some issues with how that was managed. I don't think it was managed correctly.
And I can see that. I can definitely see
so I think that's a legitimate criticism. Even if you're going to say he, to your point, Jazz, I do agree with you. If we'd gone for that fourth down, would we have gotten it? Probably not. Right? The way we're executing, where we're going to all of a sudden punch in the end zone for the 4-yard line. Right. Probably not. But it does then have them start their 4-yard line. So, because then our next drive started at our 1. So, it's all it's a whole butterfly flip. You change one decision, the whole game can change. So, I don't know. I can't. The way we were struggling to score there, I felt like you're that close to the end zone, you got to go for a touchdown. You're down 2 at that point.
Yeah, I can see that. I get it. I get it. And look, and I will agree. Look, as far as Josh Gaddis's play calling, it wasn't a terribly called game. I don't agree with some of the plays that he put together in the red zone. I know that bootleg with TVD wasn't the best. I know that that drop, whatever it was, the RPO with Knighton wasn't the best. Wasn't the best call, but at the end of the day, we have to execute better. And I think that this was a great learning experience for that. I saw someone mention that this is still a win for Miami. No, there's no such thing as moral victories, man. This is not a win either way you look at it. It's a learning experience for them. A loss is a loss. It's a loss against a big time program. And I think, look, yeah, so I think what Blue said really quick, said about Texas A&M will get trampled by Georgia or by Alabama. I don't know. Look, I get it. They are an inferior team to those teams, but it's still SEC football. And this is not the same Texas A&M team. If anything, they may be a little bit better than the one that played. Well, I disagree. Then again, let me backtrack. They're not better because they did lose a lot of guys to the NFL. But this is a really good football team. And I think they would compete with the Alabamas. They would compete with the Georgias. You saw Texas how they competed against Alabama, albeit it was the first game of the season. I get that, but at the same time, this is the SEC. The SEC is very competitive. I don't know if they would get blown out by these teams. I don't know if they're definitely not a better team. But look, teams match up with each other sometimes better than other teams. That's just the bottom line. It doesn't matter how good you are. Sometimes you just match up against a team better than the other, but based off of your the way that you play football. So I don't know if they would get blown out. So I won't go that far as to say that. This is a damn good Texas A&M team. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, and you can't do the transitive property in sports anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, you saw it with App State, right?
Yeah, but I mean, great point. If we were to play App State right now, how much would you pick us to win by? Get the hell out of here, right? But They beat A&M. To me, that's not really. I will say on the whole, moral victory thing. This is a loss, plain and simple. In fact, it's a frustrating loss because we should have won. But I think I think the positive takeaway is not that this is like a win or anything. It's that the way the team played, you could see that this can be a very good football team. And you know what? It's been a long time. Even as we were winning games at the end of last year, it was somehow Kenny Pickett overthrowing a wide open wide receiver would have walked. Like, this guy was an NFL first round pick. He's the first quarterback taken the draft. I don't know how he missed that throw, right? And he overthrew it, and I think James Williams intercepts it. And you're like, oh, we won? Because if he just makes the throw he's made a million times, these guys walks into the end zone, right? That's a win where you're like, we just went on the road and beat a ranked team. And you're like, but man, I don't think we're very good. This is almost the opposite. Like, it's not a win, it's a loss. It's disappointing, but you could see that if we clean up some of the passing game and really the execution on the passing game, more so than the play calling. I know people don't want to hear that, but if you clean up the execution on the passing game, you could see a really good team in there. And I can't remember last time I said that.
DJ, I want to flip the script here because we haven't really talked about the defense a lot. We've just said that they played well, but two surprising things, right? One more surprising than the other, but I think the defense as a whole played really, really well. Talk to me about our first round talent, DJ Ivey, and our possibly our All-American linebacker Corey Flagg. It's just funny to me, right? Like, we've been talking about DJ Ivey, how he hasn't lived up to expectations, had one of his best games that he's ever played against one of the better teams that he's probably gone against, right? So I think this was great, a great building block momentum for DJ Ivey to be like, okay, hold on a second. Look what I just did against, Texas A&M. Boom. It was a great, Big Ten, SEC football. I went out there and I played well. Corey Flagg, the same thing. I mean, we've been seeing it from Corey Flagg the whole time. People just want to downplay how good of a football player he is, quite frankly. Talk to me about this defense. What you saw out of them, if you liked what they what they did, if there's anything that you'd like to see down the road, them do a little bit of it. I can think of one off the bat, but I'm going to let you handle that real quick.
Yeah, no, I saw a very aggressive defense. I saw a very reactive defense. They didn't wait for plays to come to them. They went and attacked. And that's something at times that I don't know if you would have seen last year. And I really thought they did a good job of, it sounds so cliche, but playing to the moment. This is a primetime game on the road against a tough Texas A&M team. And I thought they looked sharp, all things considered. The one thing that I would say that they struggled a little bit with was the running game. And Achane, the Texas A&M running back, I believe that's how you pronounce his last name, he was able to get through some holes in the defense. And, Anais Smith is a very good wide receiver, and he had a touchdown, and I think it was 74 yards. So, the Texas A&M playmakers came to play. With that being said, it didn't feel like, we let them score or we kind of just, laid down to them. We made them work for it. And the aggression of the defense and the reaction time of guys like Flagg and Ivey were really encouraging to see. They were definitely ready for this moment.
These are the two things I want to say, Vish, and I want to turn it to you real quick on this. The first one is no chunk plays, right? You didn't see a lot of that in this game. You saw maybe a couple of plays where Miami was a little bit out of position. You saw a few missed tackles. I will say it was kind of disappointing to see one specific linebacker really didn't play too well. I won't really say it was a missed tackle in the James Williams one where I think it was Devin Achane scored on that little swing pass. That's tough to get a guy like that who's an Olympic sprinter basically in the open field to tackle him. So I don't want to say I'll give him a pass. Yeah, he's unbelievable out there. He's kind of hard to get down either way. So, but I'm really impressed with the lack of chunk plays, which is obviously something that we cleaned up before this game. However, the only thing that I would have liked to have seen, and Vish, you could probably agree with me on this, is that there was no takeaways. There was no big plays on defense. And that's what I think we needed to swing the momentum, to kind of get them on their heels. And that could have maybe changed the outcome of this game as well. Vish, what are your thoughts on the defense and how they played? And, as far as not getting any turnovers, I think that was a big thing.
It was definitely a big thing, but I think that was part of why Texas A&M switched quarterbacks. They had turned it over a lot the first couple of games. They didn't at all here. And
good point.
And when we allowed them to basically gifted them that touchdown, Well, I mean, this is worthy of sharing. So let's just
Yeah. Now I feel like Ben is just trying to bust my chops.
I mean, he's got some one-liners. He's firing.
Definitely, yeah. I like him. No, I like it. I like it. Keep him coming, Ben. Keep him coming.
It's Florida. Everyone's armed. He's got fully loaded, and he's firing on. He's firing on both.
Oh man.
But yeah. So they are intent because we spotted them the lead essentially. They never had to get out of that comfort zone of, I'm going to keep it simple. He made the safe throw every time. He never had to force it because they were fine punting. We never, if we ever got in front, I think the turnover would have come on the next possession. But he never, I mean, he was 10 of 20, their quarterback, and they didn't drop anything. I think, actually, they dropped a pass on the first drive. That was it. And so, like, it was all just, I'm going to make the safe throw. I'm throwing it 5 yards out of bounds versus throwing it near a covered receiver. And you saw them miss throw after throw after throw. And he didn't care because they were in the lead and they were not threatened by our offense. And part of turnovers is your offense putting pressure on the other team's offense to have to make plays, because you make turnovers, you're trying to make plays. And we never got them in that mode where this dink and dunk quarterback had to actually try to throw the ball down the field. And that's why we didn't turn them over.
Texas A&M ran to minimize the turnovers, and it was a smart thing to do. Kind of like you just said, Vish, it allowed the quarterback to throw these 5-yard passes, and then he could hand off to the running back for another 5-yard gain. They put them in a position to succeed, and they put Johnson in a position to succeed by not having him do too much and taking up clock and while maintaining the lead. And it was a very smart plan offensively by Texas A&M. They were able to utilize that balance, something that we didn't necessarily see from Miami on Saturday.
Yeah, good point, Samad Jamar. Yes, definitely. I hope I said your name right and I didn't butcher it. So, the defense, I think that, Max Johnson actually was kind of like the perfect quarterback for this defense as well. He's a statue. We put pressure on him. We were able to get some sacks. We were able to rattle him a little bit because you saw we put some hits on him. He made some errant throws. We just didn't get to him enough. And Vish, I think it was a perfect thing that you said. We didn't put enough pressure on the offensive side of the ball to make them take more risks and make more mistakes. So that's to piggyback off of what DJ said. They ran to minimize turnovers because they didn't need to push the ball down the field. They didn't need to take those risks. We, on the other hand, needed to. And we spoke about this pregame. We spoke about it last week. What's the first thing that we said? Aside from win the battle in the trenches, take risks, take chances. And we really didn't do that on offense. So I think that it all goes hand in hand. Look, and just to make a point, on what Ben said about TVD playing in this system. Yeah, look, I get where you're coming from, Ben, because I think it's, it would be interesting to see if Josh Gaddis starts to kind of tailor it a little bit more to make TVD a little more successful in this offense. If he doesn't, then yeah, you're kind of wasting his talent a little bit because he is a guy that with the ball in his hands can make some magic happen. Put him in that position, and I think that you'll be all right. And I think that, again, what I said earlier was the evaluation based off of this game is going to be really important moving forward, especially for ACC play. If we can kind of make some adjustments, find the playmaker, I think we'll be just fine on that side of the ball.
The reason why Josh Gaddis was so successful at Michigan was because he was able to tailor the offense to Cade McNamara's strengths. Now he has to turn around in the ACC and work on tailoring, a bit more the play calling to Tyler Van Dyke's strengths. And I'm going to be interested to see exactly what he does and if there are any changes, because this is a whole different ballgame than Michigan, but he has shown the ability to switch up game plans when needed. So now let's see it.
Yeah. Vish, do you think that, and Vince brings up a good point, and we said that you still have to throw the ball down the field and you still have to go for 7, not 3. I totally get that. And I think that, you've got to take some risks. And here's the thing, you have the quarterback to do that. Put him in that position to do it. Vish, do you think that Gaddis tried to make some adjustments at the half? Did we see that? And I mean, the obvious answer is yes, because you saw him connect on more of his passes. You saw them still move the ball up and down the field between the 20s. Do you think he made enough adjustments? And then after this, we'll kind of move on to Middle Tennessee State very little because I know there's not much to talk about with them.
Yeah, no, I think he made some adjustments. I do think, talking about the offense fitting TVD, one of the things TVD needs to improve on is going through his progressions more quickly. He locks in on the primary receiver for too long. There were plays where, since I was at the game, you kind of see it's easier to see, obviously, definitely easier than for the quarterback to kind of, from the stands, to see like all the receivers at once. There were guys breaking open, and he was kind of waiting for the primary to get open and, getting off his progressions a little late. I'm sure they're going to work with him on that. I think that probably caused some of our issues where they were like, there's no one open. There were people open on some of these plays, and he just didn't get through his progressions to get the ball there. So I don't know that. I mean, there were some adjustments made. Unfortunately, some of them were, I think Gary talked about this, to try and get those wheels moving for TVD, which I don't think that was, because that was all pretty much in the second half where he ran a couple of speed options to the short side, had a couple of runs, including in a goal line sequence, which I'm sure we'd like all those plays back. I don't know on what planet TVD was going to actually pick up a decent gain on those plays against the defense with as much speed as A&M has. So I don't know what that was, but I mean,
by the way, those red zone opportunities, wasn't that the perfect opportunity to throw those 50-50 balls up in the air to Will Mallory or to even in Keyshawn Smith, Michael Redd, any of these guys, but to throw a 50-50 fade to the end of the end zone, to the corner of the end zone. Because look, TVD has he has the talent to say, okay, I'm gonna throw it where only my receiver can catch it. If he can't catch it, it's gonna go out of bounds, right? Or something like that. I think that was a perfect opportunity to do that, and that's where we did not capitalize. I think that's where we kind of squandered an opportunity there.
Yeah, there was. I guess to me the issue with that, and Gaddis talked about this today. The way they were lining up, we should have been able to run against those fronts. They were not. They were not. Packed in there and giving us those one-on-ones on the outside. So even in the red zone, they were still had safety help. So you don't want to throw that jump ball into double coverage. And I think that's where I think his frustration, and mine a little bit too, was, in the red zone, we didn't make the big block. We didn't break the tackle. Well, you saw us consistently doing it in between the 20s. And, I mean, especially on the first drive, we had that third and long, might have been in goal. It was definitely more than 10 yards because we lost yards and made a penalty or something. And Knighton, it looked like he was going to score, and one of their defenders just stuck his leg out and just tripped him at the last second, and he came up just short. Those are the things where it's just like, it's just there. And you're looking at a play call, you're like, it's there. And so it's kind of like, I'm almost sympathetic to Gas. He's like, we are running over this team, run the damn ball into the end zone. And it's just, and the receivers can't catch. I'm not throwing a jump ball. And I get from our standpoint, 2020 hindsight, you're like, come on, throw the ball into the end zone somewhere. So at least we, if we somehow catch it, the touchdown, we haven't scored a touchdown. But I think he's looking at it, he's much more methodical about it in terms of just, this is the front. There's 3 men on the line. We can push that around. That's a front you run against. Let's run the ball. And it did not work. So I think the challenge for him is, all right, now what? Right? Because, look, that game's in the past now. And I know you want to talk about Middle Tennessee, but that game's in the past. So in the future, other teams are going to look at that. And we're playing North Carolina 3 weeks from now, after the bye week. When we get into the red zone, they're going to say, hey, down in the red zone, they're not as effective running the ball. We can stop it and take the pass away too. Now, what's his counter to that? Because at some point it is on the offensive play caller to, hey, even if the formation's dictating you run at this, it's not working. Where's your plan B? Which I think his thing was, this is going to work eventually, and it never did.
Which, by the way, for the North Carolina game, me and Vish are going to be running in a 5 and 10K before the game. And then we're going to both be at the game together. And he's going to do a pregame with me that day. So I'm pretty excited about that.
That'll be I am praying for not a noon kick.
Oh my gosh, I know. Tell me about it. Just getting
Please
up
do
that
not
early
make that a
anyway.
noon kick.
Although, listen, right after the run, we got to get out of there, man. We can't wait around. I don't know. I don't even know if I want to get my participation medal. You know, it's just for an Instagram picture. That's what that participation.
Well,
medal
my
is.
run starts like an hour before yours, so
Oh yeah, you're right.
yours will be if it's noon, yours will be.
You're
much
probably
tighter.
gonna lap me like Max does to the whole field. But anyways,
I think you'll still finish before I will though.
Yeah, probably. I digressed. Real quick for Middle Tennessee State, I think that oh DJ. Real quick, because listen, this is an opportunity for us to kind of get our legs under us again, try some new things, try to get some playmakers, get the confidence built up in that offense again, those wide receivers. This is a great opportunity to get some of the younger guys, Zay Horton, Kobe Young, in the game as well, because we're gonna need to find those guys that can be consistent, catch the ball, and make some plays. Really, just the keys to the game. I think it's simple for me. Okay, it's red zone execution. Okay, it's get the wide receivers going, score a lot of points, and no regression on defense. I think you need to dominate this game, but we need to see some turnovers. We need to see the defense uh, put their mark on this game, maybe score a defensive touchdown. But for me, it's on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to focus on the offensive side of the ball. We've got to get some confidence in these wide receivers, and we've got to get better execution in the red zone. DJ, what are your keys to this game against Middle Tennessee State? By the way, an alumni of my high school plays wide receiver from Middle Tennessee State. So big shout
awesome.
out to yeah. Go ahead, DJ. I'm sorry.
No problem. The keys to me, you kind of just said it, the red zone execution, and then also finding another receiver that can step up, like you said. But I think it's going to be even more important because good programs have more than just one good receiver. We've talked a lot about Xavier Restrepo. He's the 1A. Now we need a 1B and maybe even a 1C because good elite programs that can go to that next level and compete in the college football playoff or whatever, they have, multiple weapons that they can go to. So a game like this one against Middle Tennessee State could maybe give us a clue as to if we have a second weapon that can emerge and be of great value when Restrepo comes back, or it could tell us that Restrepo is really the only, big play receiver that we have, in which case we're in some deep trouble.
Ish.
Yeah, I think this is the week that you're going to have to probably work in some different things with the pass game. You don't have Restrepo. I know what Blue said about, George was suspended the first two games, and he frankly made like one play on Saturday, so it wasn't exactly like he was lighting it up. But he's got explosive ability. He's got at least that. We're now like down another potential person that can break plays open. So what Samaj Jamar said earlier, we got to figure out how to get the ball in Knighton's hands in space, whether it's on screen passes or something. I think that's key. We tried to do it with Parrish and he dropped the ball. But I think Knighton in the slot is something we're going to have to look at heavily, especially since Eileen Kane's mentioned for some reason, like Thad barely played.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
So, and that's probably because Knighton and Parrish were running the hell out of the ball. It's like, why are you taking, you're rotating them in. They're handing it off to each other and kicking butt. But, at this point,
Stop it, Rob. Stop it, Rob.
At this point, I feel like, if you got to take, half of Jalen's carries away and give them to Thad and convert those into Jalen, playing some receiver in the slot or, moving around into doing some interesting things, moving him around the whole formation, I'm on board with that. You need some playmakers on the edge too. And he's probably the best playmaker on our team. So get the ball in his hands other ways than just handing it to him is a way we can kind of loosen some of the defense up. Do some two running back stuff where he and Parrish on the field at the same time. There's stuff we're going to have to get creative there and then get creative with our tight ends because that's where the talent is. It's at the tight end and running back position. So I'm curious to see if we make any adjustments there. We mentioned Brashard didn't have a good game and obviously had the signature ending to the game. But, he made that ridiculous catch against Southern Miss. So what? Like Blue said, if you can catch against Bethune-Cookman, why can't you catch it against A&M?
Right.
So,
we need
is it simply a matter of
it's
simply a matter of let's get these guys another shot at it. Run, keep the system going. They're always going to make adjustments game to game either way, but don't necessarily need to come in with a whole lot of new stuff and just execute it better. Or is it more of a all right, we're down too many playmakers. We got to kind of change some of what we're fundamentally doing to get the ball to Mallory more, to get Mallory had 6 catches. We get to Arroyo more, get it to Knighton on the edge more. Those are things where you do have guys you feel can make plays that other than Mallory have not really made the impact on the edge. Knighton was awesome running the ball, but we want that man in space, right? And maybe he can return punts too, because I got some issues.
He's gonna have to do everything there, yeah. Which I don't understand why you don't have. And this is not a knock. This is not a knock on Tyreek Stevens. Yeah, well, clearly we can see that this game made you angry and pissed because you're throwing all sorts of nonsense out there, Rob. I still question.
Hammer and Hank ain't with us anymore, but Jazz is ready to assume the throne here.
I love it, Jazz. I love it.
No, it is. That's fine.
Older Miami people like Jazz and I know what I was talking about. But.
Yeah, this. It's. I get it, man. This is how us Miami fans react to a lot of these games, right?
This is how a lot of college football fans are.
A lot of college football fans, we get a little irrational, we knee jerk a little bit, and that's fine. It is what it is. I'm just messing with Rob, but yeah, everybody was angry and pissed off about that game. Trust me, I totally get that. But and a lot of them say, "Oh, we've seen this kind of story before." But anyways, totally lost my train of thought, but. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. However, we'll have a pregame show. We'll be on Saturday afternoon at around 2:30, live from Hard Rock Stadium. Myself and Larry Bluestein, and if Vish wants to get in, DJ, whatever you guys want, if you guys want to get in. But excuse me, we'll do a quick pregame show, and we'll start getting ready 2-3 weeks from now for North Carolina as well. But I don't want to look past this game, but I think, this game we just need to come out with some fire and kick someone's butt. And I think that we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. Tough game to drop, frustrating game to lose. And but I think we'll be okay. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at 6 Rings Canes. You can find us on the podcast platforms as well, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. We've got some big news coming for you very soon. I know we mentioned the fan-sided partnership, but we're going to have a little bit of a facelift per se. And we're not talking about these beautiful faces here.
Yeah, you're not going to, we're not going crazy here.
You're going to get what you're going to get with us. Okay. We're not Tom Brady here.
You can't look, unlike the offense, there's no room for improvement, here. So
it is what it is.
You got to
take it or leave it.
Take us or leave us. Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be some exciting times coming here on the 6 Rings Canes. So make sure you keep it locked to us every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. and every Saturday, an hour before game time as well. We will have a pregame show. Maybe not every Saturday. It depends on how low our faculties are on those days. But
we definitely won't in the bye week. But
no, you definitely won't have a pregame on the bye week. So, yeah, make sure you check us out again this Saturday at 2:30 p.m. on the pregame show. We'll definitely talk to you again. Thank you so much to Eric Mac Lain from the Huddle on the ACC Network. What an amazing interview that was. And thank you for all of you guys that are still watching us, that are still hanging out with us right now. Ben, Rob, Vince, the cast of degenerates. I love you all, man. And Canes fan, it is what it is. We still love you guys no matter what. So thank you guys for joining us on the show. Again, follow us on Twitter at 6 Rings Canes, on Instagram at 6 Rings Canes as well for the latest on everything that's going down with the Miami Hurricanes and their football program. Vish, DJ, thank you guys again. Thank you to Blue as well.
Oh man, wait, we got to pause here for a second.
Whoa,
illustrious company that I think most of the street doesn't know, but good friends of Jazz and I.
Yep. Oh, look, I'm sorry. Before we even go, Vince, I love this. Malik Curtis needs to get a shot at wide receiver too. Yes.
Yeah, there's some,
and maybe even Chris Graves, right? We'll talk a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, we were we were wrapping up. They put some really good comments in here. There's some good discussion going on. I'm like, man, it's already been an hour and a half.
I know. Why is it? Yeah, we're pushing 2 hours.
2
Why is it that
hours.
we're about to leave?
So I'm like, dude,
We're about to
can't
leave,
keep
and you
going.
guys are throwing this fire at us in
but
the
like
chat.
this is excellent. There's like so much good content in the chat right now. So
I know. We're come on,
you know,
guys.
there's a good debate on how.
Honestly, they were
important-
too busy bitching and complaining earlier instead of throwing out this fire content here. Come on, Rob, Vince, get it together. Jeez. By the way, Jack, just for dropping in, you should probably give us a dono, but that's whatever. That's neither here nor there.
Jack is a mainstay on our F1 show for those that aren't aware. Wednesdays at 9. Yeah, so tune into that too.
Wednesdays at 9.
Yeah, but Jack is a friend of Jazz and ours that you know, basically all we have to do on that show is just show his comments and read them and laugh, and that's basically how that show is. So,
yep,
so good to see you on the Kane Show.
Absolutely, much love to you, Jack. All right, guys, we will see you Saturday afternoon for the pregame show, and then we'll see you on Monday to wrap things up as well as we get into our bye week. Talk to you guys soon. Go Canes.